Welcome to our deep dive today. We're taking on Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now.
Yeah, it's a pretty famous one.
It is. It's a spiritual guide, but it's not about religion.
Not in the traditional sense, no.
Yeah, it's about consciousness, being present, really like experiencing life rather than, just thinking about it all the time.
That's a good way to put it.
Right. This book's known for being profound, potentially life-changing even.
Yeah, a lot of people swear by it.
But it can also be pretty dense. So our mission is to break down the core ideas, make them easy to grasp, highlight what makes them so powerful.
Especially for people hearing this for the first time, right?
Exactly. For all of us, really. Now, one of the things that struck me is how Tolle doesn't rely on religious doctrines.
It's true, he kind of sidesteps all that.
Yeah. He dives deep into the human mind, explores this concept of the ego, and
The ego is huge in his work.
it is. So let's unpack that. He says it's a false sense of self that we create, right?
Exactly, it's like a mental construct, built from past experiences, future worries, all the stories we tell ourselves.
So is he saying that who we think we are isn't actually real?
That's the question Tolle raises. He argues that this ego-driven sense of self keeps us trapped in a cycle of suffering.
Interesting.
We're always striving for something outside ourselves, future achievement or external validation. But true peace, he says, comes from within.
I remember that story in the book about the beggar, the one who's incredibly content,
Oh yeah, he's just present in each moment.
not weighed down by thoughts about the past or future.
And that's how Tolle shows us how the ego can fool us into thinking happiness is out there somewhere.
Always focused on what's missing, what's wrong.
It thrives on negativity, problem making.
It's funny you mention that because you were saying how swamped you've been with work deadlines.
Oh, tell me about it.
And I was thinking, is that your ego trying to amplify anxieties and kind of maintain control?
Whoa. You know what? That's a really good point.
Right.
Tolle would say recognizing the ego's role in our suffering is the first step to breaking free.
Becoming aware of those thoughts without getting completely swept away by them.
That's the key.
So how do we actually escape this ego trap?
Right.
Tolle talks a lot about the power of now, right? What exactly does he mean by that?
It's like this. Imagine the surface of the ocean.
Okay.
Waves constantly crashing, churning, creating chaos. Those waves are like our thoughts, always coming and going.
Right.
But deep down, in the depths of the ocean, there's profound stillness.
And that stillness is what he calls being present.
Exactly. It's about tapping into that place of pure awareness,
Sure.
beneath all the mental noise, recognizing that this moment right here, right now, is all we truly have. Everything else is just a thought.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. But it still sounds a little abstract. How do we actually access this now?
He does give us some tools.
Does he? Like what?
One of those powerful techniques is watching the thinker.
Watching the thinker, that sounds kind of strange.
It might sound strange, but it's a simple yet profound practice.
Okay.
It's about becoming an observer of your own thoughts.
I see.
Instead of getting lost in them, you simply notice them, arising and passing, without judgment.
So instead of freaking out about that presentation you mentioned, you just notice the thought, I'm going to mess this up and let it float by. No panicking.
Exactly. You see it as a thought, not reality.
Ah.
This subtle shift can be incredibly liberating. Allows you to create space between yourself and those thoughts.
I like that.
You realize you don't have to believe everything you think.
You know what? This watching the thinker thing, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Really?
Yeah. Reminds me of something that happened a few years ago. I was going through a tough time, bombarded by negative thoughts constantly.
And there.
One day, I was sitting in the park feeling overwhelmed. And suddenly, it hit me. I was not those thoughts.
Wow.
It was like stepping outside myself, seeing them as separate from who I truly am.
That's a perfect example of what Tolle's talking about.
Really?
That moment of awareness.
Yeah.
Separating yourself from your thoughts, that's the key to accessing the power of now.
So watching the thinker, it's like building a mental muscle, right? The more we do it, the easier it gets to detach from those negative thought patterns.
Absolutely. And Tolle mentions other practices, too, that can help cultivate presence, like focusing on your breath, paying attention to your senses.
Oh, okay.
Anything that anchors you in the present moment.
So like noticing the warmth of the sun on your skin, the taste of your coffee, the sound of leaves rustling.
Exactly. It's about bringing your full attention to what's happening right now without letting your mind pull you back into the past or into the future.
Okay, I'm starting to see how powerful this could be. But Tolle doesn't stop there, right? He introduces this concept of the pain body,
Right.
which sounds kind of intense.
It's a powerful concept. Imagine it as this energy field within you. made up of all the accumulated emotional pain from your past, the hurt, the anger, the sadness, things you haven't fully processed.
So it's like the shadow self that feeds on negativity.
In a way, yes. Tolle says the pain body can almost have a life of its own, seeking to perpetuate itself. By hijacking our thoughts and emotions,
Really?
it might trigger us to react in ways that don't serve us, bringing up old patterns of pain and suffering.
This pain body thing is pretty intense. I can see it playing out in my own life.
Oh, yeah?
Like that time I completely overreacted to a simple comment from a friend because it triggered a memory of being criticized in the past.
Classic pain body move.
Right.
We all have these pain bodies to some extent. But here's the key. Awareness is crucial.
Okay.
By becoming aware of the pain body and its influence, we can start to break free from its control.
So it's not about denying or suppressing the pain, but about seeing it without judgment, recognizing it as separate from our true selves.
You got it. It's like shining a light on the darkness. By acknowledging the pain body, we take away its power. And that brings us to the ultimate goal, enlightenment.
Okay, enlightenment. That sounds pretty lofty. What does Tolle say about that?
Well, Tolle's view of enlightenment is actually quite grounded.
Is it?
He doesn't see it as some distant mystical state that only a select few can achieve.
Okay.
He believes it's a state of being free from suffering. And it's available to all of us right now.
So it's about realizing the peace that's already within us, hidden beneath all the mental noise.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's about awakening to the truth of who we are. Not the collection of thoughts and emotions and stories we've created about ourselves,
Okay.
but pure consciousness itself.
Yeah.
And this idea of enlightenment might sound abstract, but Tolle doesn't just leave it there.
Does he not?
He brings it down to earth. Shows how these principles can transform our everyday interactions, especially in our relationships.
That makes sense. We've been talking a lot about inner peace, but how does all of this play out in our connections with others? That's what I'm really curious about.
Tolle says our relationships can be a powerful training ground for cultivating presence.
Oh, interesting.
Think about it. Relationships often trigger our egos, bring up all sorts of unconscious patterns and reactivity.
Yeah, that's so true.
All those insecurities and past hurts,
They just come bubbling to the surface.
especially with the people closest to us.
Exactly.
But what if we approach those interactions with a conscious intention to be present? That's where the magic happens.
So instead of getting annoyed when, our partner forgets to take out the trash again,
Ugh, the worst, right?
we take a breath, remember the principles of presence,
Right.
and try to see the situation with fresh eyes.
That's the idea. It's about dropping the stories we've created about them.
The judgments,
Yeah.
the expectations.
And simply being present with who they are in that moment. Recognizing their humanity, just like we're working on recognizing our own.
That makes so much sense. But I imagine that takes a lot of practice,
Oh, yeah,
a lot of humility,
for sure.
a willingness to let go of our need to always be right.
It does. But the rewards are immense.
Oh, yeah.
When we bring presence to our relationships, we create space for deeper connection, understanding, and intimacy. And it all starts with listening.
Okay, let's talk about listening, because honestly, I think we could all use a little help in that department.
Couldn't agree more.
What does Tolle say about bringing presence to the way we communicate?
He talks about something he calls deep listening,
Deep listening.
which goes beyond just hearing the words the other person is saying.
So it's not just about waiting for our turn to speak,
No.
but actually tuning in to what the other person is trying to convey,
Right.
both verbally and non-verbally.
Exactly. Paying attention to their tone of voice, their body language, all of it. It's about listening with our whole being, with empathy and compassion, really trying to understand their perspective,
Even if we don't agree with it.
even if we don't agree with it.
And it's also about being present with our own feelings and needs, right? Not suppressing them, but communicating them authentically and respectfully.
That's the balance Tolle emphasizes. Honest and open communication,
Right.
but also being mindful of the other person's feelings. Finding that sweet spot between expressing yourself truthfully
Yeah.
and being sensitive to the impact of your words.
It sounds like a delicate dance.
It is.
But I can see how powerful it could be. I'm thinking about some conflicts I've had with loved ones where, looking back, I can see that neither of us was truly listening.
Oh, yeah.
We were both so caught up in our own heads trying to prove our points
Right.
that we missed the opportunity for genuine connection.
That's what so often happens when we're not present. We end up talking at each other
Not to each other.
rather than to each other.
Right.
But when both parties are truly present and listening deeply, communication becomes a tool for connection and growth.
So instead of those conversations devolving into arguments,
Yeah,
they can become opportunities to learn more about each other,
exactly.
to deepen our understanding, to
Yeah.
strengthen our bond.
Precisely. It's like creating a sacred space for dialogue, where each person feels heard and respected.
That's such a beautiful image. We're creating a space for true intimacy.
Yes.
It's not just physical intimacy,
No.
but emotional and spiritual intimacy as well.
Exactly. And that kind of intimacy is only possible when we're present. It's when we drop our defenses,
Right.
our need to be right, and simply allow ourselves to be seen and heard for who we truly are. You know, we've been focusing on relationships with partners, friends, and family,
Yeah.
but these principles apply to all our interactions
Oh, interesting.
with colleagues, with strangers, even with ourselves.
That's a good point. It's like the more we cultivate presence in our own lives,
Yes.
the more we radiate that energy outward into all our relationships
Yeah, right.
and ultimately into the world.
You've hit on something really important there. Tolle suggests that as more and more individuals awaken to the power of now, it can actually create a ripple effect throughout society.
Oh, wow.
He believes that as we become more present, we naturally become more compassionate, kind, and loving.
So it's not just about our personal enlightenment, but about contributing to a more conscious and awakened world.
Exactly. It's like we're creating a critical mass of awareness, a force for positive change in the world. And that change can manifest in countless ways,
Like what?
from more mindful and sustainable practices
Right.
to more peaceful and just societies.
It all starts with each individual cultivating presence in their own lives.
That's the foundation.
So it's not enough to just sit on our meditation cushions and bliss out.
Right.
We also have a responsibility to bring that presence into our actions,
Yes.
our interactions in the world. We need to walk the talk, so to speak.
I love that walk the talk. That's exactly what Tolle is getting at.
Really?
He calls it conscious action.
Conscious action.
And it's about aligning our thoughts, words, and deeds with the wisdom of the present moment.
So it's about living in a way that reflects our deepest values and aspirations.
Yes.
Not just acting on impulse or getting swept away by our ego's desires.
Precisely. And that's the ultimate message of the power of... Now, I believe it's not just a self-help book,
It's not.
but a call to action,
Wow.
an invitation to become agents of positive change in the world.
And that change starts with each of us in this very moment.
Now that you've had a chance to really delve into these ideas, what's standing out to you as particularly powerful or relevant to your life?
Honestly, this whole concept of the pain body has really resonated with me. I can see how it's been operating in my life,
Yeah.
especially in my relationships. And now that I'm aware of it, I feel like I have a choice.
That's huge.
I don't have to be controlled by those old patterns of pain and reactivity.
That's a huge insight. And it speaks to the power of awareness. Simply by shining a light on those unconscious patterns,
Right.
we begin to loosen their grip on us.
It's like the pain body loses its power when we bring it into the light of consciousness.
Exactly. And what about you? What's resonating with you from this deep dive?
I think for me, the biggest takeaway is this idea that presence, it isn't just about feeling good in the moment.
Right?
It's about accessing a deeper level of wisdom and clarity that can help us navigate all aspects of our lives.
Absolutely.
Our relationships, our work, our sense of purpose in the world.
That's beautifully put. It's about moving beyond the ego's limited perspective and tapping into something much greater. Something that connects us to the source of life itself. And that brings us back to the power of now.
It's all about realizing that the only moment we ever truly have is this one. The past is gone. The future is uncertain. But right now, in this present moment, anything is possible.
That's a powerful reminder, isn't it? And it's something we can come back to again and again. Whenever we feel ourselves getting lost in the chaos of the mind, we can always choose to return to the present moment, to that place of stillness and peace within.
It's like hitting the reset button.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it. No matter what's happening in our lives, no matter what challenges we're facing, we always have access to that inner sanctuary.
This has been an incredible conversation. I feel like I'm starting to grasp the essence of Tolle's message, but I know it's something I'll need to keep revisiting, keep exploring.
That's the beauty of a journey like this. It's not about arriving at some final destination, but about embracing the process of awakening.
Moment by moment.
Moment by moment. So, As we wrap up this deep dive into the power of now, I'm curious,
Yeah.
what's resonating with you, the listener? What nuggets of wisdom are you taking away from this exploration?
And more importantly, how might you apply these insights to your own life? What small steps can you take today to cultivate greater presence, connect more deeply with yourself and others, and embrace the transformative power of now? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, the power to change your life is always available to you, right here, right now.